Today I'm a guest at Ann Wauters' place. I don't think I need to introduce Ann Wauters, but I will, very short for those who have never followed Belgian basketball. So Ann Wauters has been playing for more than 20 years as an international basketball player. She played in 7 countries, in 3 continents. So she's well known here in Belgium, in the Flemish region, also in France. She won many titles, many medals also. She won the title of the Women's National Basketball Association in the US, so that means something. She won the bronze medal also in the European Champion League. She is, of course, the captain of the Belgian Cats, and that's how we all know her. Let's go. Actually, what I want to say is that Ann, of course, knows how to lead a team, how to play at international level, and she's slowly, we hope, transitioning to from the sports, elite sports, to professional world, and she's so much looking forward to share her experiences with the corporate world. And I am very proud, very happy to welcome her as part of the Resilience team, and I'm so much looking forward to this interview and to working with her here in Belgium. So, no, we cannot, Corona rules.
Welcome.
Thank you. And my first question, maybe the most obvious, but also difficult one, the whole COVID-19 crisis, everyone hates it. Yeah, postponed the Olympics, and we know it was your personal dream after such a beautiful career, also the dream of your team, of all the fans, the supporters. How did you deal with that? How did you overcome that news? It must have been not easy, so I'm curious to know.
Yeah, a big disappointment. We had just qualified for the historic qualification for the Olympics, the first time in Belgian history, in February. And a couple of weeks later, we go from a high to a completely low with the COVID. And I remember back then, people didn't really know what was going on. Of course, now we already understand much more of the coronavirus. But back then, my first feeling was huge disappointment of the postponement of the Olympics. We worked really hard to get there as a team. I think it was really a team effort over multiple years. And then to hear something like that, it was really tough. And we have a WhatsApp group with the national team, and there were all sad faces, crying faces. Everybody couldn't understand. But then, quickly after that, I think a lot of athletes felt also, for the first time, there was a time in their year, or even in their career, where they could take some rest. Because a lot of times the schedules are very, very busy, and some of them could heal some small injuries. Yeah. Some of them started to work really hard on some weaker points. Other ones that just took time with their families and rejuvenate, which is also important. And in an athlete's life, you go from one goal to another. It's not always easy. So that was maybe a little bit the positive side. Yeah. But I think as an athlete, one of the biggest, you have to overcome challenges almost on a daily basis, I would say. So being resilient is an absolute key, and you have to be able to bounce back from something, but also to bounce forward. And I think this whole COVID has learned us also to bounce forward, to refocus, to set other goals. And I think when I heard a couple of weeks ago that some very important person of the IOC kind of confirmed that they will take place, the Olympics, it also gave me some assurance. Yes, we're gonna go. And I think when I heard that message, it was kind of important also for me okay, I can refocus again. Now I can think of small goals before the big goal. And I think that's always important in an athlete's life.
Yeah. Ann, you are a top athlete already for more than 20 years. Yeah. At the Resilience Institute, we believe very much, and you know that, in the power of routines, practices, daily practices. Can you share, do you have secret routines that you can share with us? Some practices that you do every day and that really help you to strengthen that resilience, bounce back, bounce forward?
Well, I think in the sports world in general, we all believe very much in routines. When you look at different kind of sports, different kind of athletes, they all have a way to warm up, and they will most likely do it every time kind of on the same way, because it gives you confidence, it gives you a safe environment, it gives you something you recognize, you can predict, and then when the game starts, you feel ready. So I know that my warm-up routines, they're kind of always the same. In the sports world, there's a big difference between routines and superstition. I think back when I was younger, I was a little bit more superstitious, and I had to have those kind of socks and this sports bra, and I had to have pasta before every game. I had to nap before every game. So it was a little bit too much. But in that way, I think it gave me also something that I was used to. So, but if you go too far on it, it's not also a good thing. And I think especially when I became a mom also, then I kind of realized that maybe the socks were not key to my performance during the game. And then I think I got a little bit not as superstitious anymore. But the routines were still important. Especially the way I warm up before a game is important. It's always the same structure. And then I think if you look at the week before a game, for example, it is also, I think, a coach also implements that, I think, kind of in purpose to kind of build up and to have a really good feeling before you start a game. Now, I think I still have some routines that I really use every day, and maybe a little bit my non-negotiables are, I think I have to have some kind of movement during the day. I don't always want to call it workouts or sports, because sometimes it's also just a walk with the kids in the forest, for example. But it's something that gives me energy, and I really feel better when I move during the day. And I think another point is time with my family. I think it's very important to me. It gives me an unbelievable balance in my life. So it's something that I really pay attention to, that I spend enough time with my wife, with my kids. So it's something that is so important. And then I think another one is maybe also a little bit from my playing career, my sleep. I think I was always an athlete that needed so much sleep and recovery time. And as athletes, I think we are in a world where it's acceptable that recovery is key of our practice. But in the normal world, I would say sleep is underestimated.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it's something that I want to take from my playing career in my new career, that sleep is still an important key for me.
Yeah, and that resonates with me. And luckily, we have more and more research that shows us how important sleep is.
Exactly.
No, but very well. So exercise, your sleep, and time with the family.
Yes, those are the non-negotiables.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. And we know that positive emotions, that whole new science of positive psychology, we know that positive emotions are so important in everything that we do, in normal life, professional life, in parenting, in everything. Can you give an example of how positive emotions influenced you, were important in your work, in your career, in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was very important. I think at a young age, we are maybe not used to in Europe, especially to focus on our strong points, but rather on our weakest points. Once I got to United States, I was about to be 20. I learned a whole different world, and I learned how positive they were. They were very loud also during practice. You had to encourage each other all the time, but they give some atmosphere also in the team of togetherness, one thing, but also of positive things, and saying them out loud. Before that, I had maybe more coaches that would more focus on the negative things, on what went wrong, and this was not good enough, and here we can work. And I think you have to find a balance. It's not always good to hear only the positive things. You also have to be self-critical and learn about your mistakes and grow as a person and grow as a player. But it's also that important to feel the positiveness and to feel encouraged, to feel backed up by a coaching staff, by your teammates. So it's something that I've learned, and I've tried to implement it too with the national team, the Belgian Cats. And at one point, I think we were so, we had that kind of team spirit, something special, and we were encouraging each other. We were wishing each other really the best, and that is something special, because you don't always find that in every team. And when we started to celebrate even our small successes, because a game is 40 minutes in basketball, but we kind of also, not to exaggerate, but still key moments in the game, we celebrate them. And I started to feel something was growing inside of us. And during that tournament, we started to grow also from game to game, and starting to be stronger together. And at one point, I started to realize that the way we were encouraging each other, celebrating things that went well. And so that was key to me, to understand the positive mindset. What kind of power it has.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Huh?
Yes.
And you're not only a professional, you also have a family, a wife, 3 kids, and as for everyone, I can imagine you also had to juggle professional life, traveling a lot, with a family life. Any tips there? How did you do that?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but at least in my experience, it was a great one. First of all, because I can share my passion with my kids. I think that was so important to me. But at the end of the day, it gave me more energy. Of course, I got a little bit less sleep. I got to do a lot of other things also, and not only focus on my basketball career, but to me that gave me more energy. And I think that is something you have to kind of decide for yourself. And I think it's not general, but I think in life, having different roles, it can be very meaningful, and it can be even better. I think at one point, I had played 6 years in France, I had played 6 years in Russia. I started to feel I need something more also in my life. I can't just stay in one little role, in one little box. And then of course I started a family, different responsibilities, unbelievable experience, nothing that you can compare with sports, of course. So it gave me really that balance. And I think if I can compare it with friends that I have, or even family, it's for everybody like that. I think we have a busy life now. We're not only professionals, but we're also partners, we're friends, we're sisters, we're mothers, or fathers, whatever. But it's finding that right balance that is important. And any tips on that? I think you have to prioritize sometimes. And at one point in your career, one thing can be maybe a little bit have a little bit more importance. And at the other time, I think you can also have being really in the moment. I think that's something that athletes can do pretty well. When we're on the court, we're there to do our job, and we're very focused on what we have to do.
Fully present there.
Fully there, and because you can't, otherwise you cannot perform. It's impossible. And then we're at home, we can also be fully present. Not always easy to let go of the game, for example. Sometimes I remember games that we have lost. I couldn't sleep after that. But I think it's very recognizable for everybody. But in one way you have to kind of let it go and also try to be present there. And I think with kids actually it was a good thing for me, because when I came home I couldn't stay too much in my basketball life, because I had to be there with them and be very present.
And they see it when you are not present.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? And you have to play with them, you have to give them attention. And I think that gave me actually an unbelievable balance. And I think that's one of the reasons why I had such a long career. I think also we all struggle a little bit with finding that balance sometimes. And I think you can also see that sometimes even for women it's harder. Especially if you look at the sports world, it's not always easy to find equality there. We already have made a lot of big steps forwards, and especially on the courts, but I think off the court, I think we also have to be able to have examples, role models there that also have a career outside of the court.
Ann, you played at top level, so I would definitely compare you with a leader of big companies, small companies. What are your 3 top leadership tips that you could share with us?
Well, I had the chance to play for a lot of coaches, different kind of coaches. So I think there's a lot of different styles of leadership, even leadership within a team, not only the coaching staff. But the key things to me are communication. I think especially the coach, he has to be able to communicate well with his players, but even between the players, communication is just key. To be on the same page, being able to also express what is going on. I think sometimes it's not always easy. I think for a coach, another leadership capability is really giving feedback. If it's in a positive way, it's nice to hear, but also the negative ones. I think it's the negative, it sounds negative, maybe you have to rephrase it and say it's something you
constructive,
can work on. But it's something like being straightforward. I think a lot of players want to hear it, and sometimes coaches don't really know because they don't want to hurt the player, and they're going to be too sensitive, and sometimes we just want to hear the message.
So a bit of courage to to say what needs to be said.
And as a leader, if you can make a safe environment where there is trust between each other and where you feel safe enough to make mistakes. I think it's a very important one. And in sports world, it's you can see it right away. If a team plays with a lot of confidence, they're not going to do everything perfect.
No.
It doesn't exist in sports. No. But they are going to feel the freedom and kind of the confidence to be able to make mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if you can install that kind of environment as a coach, I think you're going to book a lot of successes. And of course, as a leader, if you have some charisma, if you can inspire your team in front of you, if you can motivate them, those are also, of course, strong
assets, qualities.
Those things are also very strong qualities as a coach or as a leader.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I think it's a source of inspiration for all of us. And I'm really looking forward to be able to dive a bit deeper into it, to link it to resilience, because I hear many topics coming back: rejuvenation, positive emotion, trust, so many keywords that really resonate with me. So thank you, and I'm really looking forward really on working together.
Well, me too, and I'm so happy that I can share my experiences. So thank you. I also look forward to it.
Very nice.